Hi, Girl Scouts. We're going to get started. I'm so sorry for the delay in getting you in. We had the daisies and the brownies and the juniors in, and it just ran a little bit long today, and we didn't have as much of a transition time. So I apologize for that. But wanted to introduce myself. My name's Katie Herstein, and I am the program and events manager at Girl Scouts of Colorado. And so basically, I'm the person who gets to do these inspiring futures, and I get to meet a whole wide range of women in different professions. And they basically get to talk to you about what your future could be like, so you can be inspired. And we have the perfect partner that is working with us to bring you this series, and it's College Invest. So College Invest is Colorado's college savings program, and it makes it easy to save for your education after high school. So it's a fancy way of saying that they exist for one reason, and that's to help you and your families put away money to save for your inspired future. And I started a College Invest savings plan when we moved here 10 years ago, because I have 2 Girl Scouts and I have one going off to college next year. And I'm very glad that we started that savings plan because it's going to help us pay for her education. So because basically your savings plan is like a piggy bank, but even better because the money that your parents or your caregivers or grandparents put into your College Invest plan, it grows tax-free. And then you get to use it for your expenses, for your educational expenses past high school. So your money goes even further, and it can be used to send you to college just about anywhere across the country. So even trade school or apprenticeships, which give you real world experience. And we have a video message from the CEO of College Invest, and she's going to tell us about what she hopes that will inspire you today.
Hi, I'm Angela Beyer, CEO of College Invest, and welcome to this episode of Inspiring Futures. Through Girl Scouts, you've learned that if you can dream it, you can do it. And here at College Invest, Colorado's education savings program, we help you get there. And you're never too young to begin to imagine your inspired future. So how will you impact this world? Will you run your own business, invent a new technology, or maybe even discover a life-saving cure? But wherever your inspiration takes you, a College Invest savings plan can help make your dreams a reality. Now, prepare to be inspired.
And we're even lucky today to have the person that you just saw in the video joining us, Angela Beyer. She's the CEO of College Invest, and she wanted to be here today to just say hi because she actually has some experience with zoos too. So Angela, if you want to share your video and give a wave to the Girl Scouts to say hello. And then when the session's finished, we'll hear a little word from Angela about her experience with zoos, and she can share that with us. Right. And we're going to go on to some housekeeping things. So we are recording this session, but when it goes up onto our YouTube channel, so Girl Scouts can see it that might have missed this event, we'll make sure that we block out your faces and things. So you can turn on your video cameras right now so we can see you and hear questions that you might have, but that will not go up onto our YouTube channel. So you can be safe with that. And then next, we're going to head over to our Girl Scout promise and our law. I would love it if you want to unmute yourselves and you can join along with me. Are you ready? On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. And the law, I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout. Thank you for joining along with me. I could hear someone there. Okay, and what you're all here for, the zoo. So we have 3 fantastic women from the Denver Zoo, an animal ambassador, a zookeeper, and a facilitator for the new animal hospital that's there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to welcome the Denver Zoo.
Hi there. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to be with you today. My name is Stephanie, and this is Kelsey, and we are both zookeepers on the Animal Ambassador team here at Denver Zoo. This is very special to me. I am also a Girl Scout, was for 12 years, very exciting, to help share this passion, because Girl Scouts was what helped me inspire me to follow my dream and go into zookeeping. So first, a little bit about Denver Zoo. Denver Zoo is a conservation-based organization. We have over 3,000 animals and hundreds of staff, and we all work to the same mission of inspiring communities to save wildlife for future generations. So even if you're an accountant or working in our horticulture team, we're all here for the same purpose, and that's to help animals and teach our communities about our animals. Our Denver Zoo is also an AZA accredited zoo, which means that it's a member of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. This is the highest standard that zoos in North America can reach. We actually have to go through an accreditation process once every 5 years. So it's a really great thing that we have that here. But to talk a little bit about ourselves and our zookeeping career, we're going to tell you how we got our start into zookeeping. For Kelsey and I, it's just a little bit different. So I started many years ago and was in Girl Scouts, like I said, and was always pushing me to follow my dreams. And I always knew that I wanted to work with animals. So I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So it wasn't until my senior year in high school that someone's like, you could go work at a zoo. And I didn't know that that was a thing. I didn't get to go to a zoo very often. I don't know if I thought the animals took care of themselves or what, but once somebody placed that idea in my head, that was it. I wanted to be a zookeeper. So I knew I needed a degree. So I went to the Youngstown State University to get my degree in biology. So I have a bachelor's in biology. And while I was in college, I met somebody from Walt Disney World, of all places. And it turns out they have a college program there that helps with internships and getting you into different fields. But the initial start was just working in attractions. So I drove a train and a safari truck. While I was there, one of the first people that I met was in charge of my orientation at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and she was a zookeeper. So of course I pulled her aside after the orientation. I said, how do I get your job? And she kind of laughed, because apparently she got asked that all the time and didn't actually think that I'd follow through with it, but I did. I kept in contact with her, found out about a keeper trainee position that I could apply for right as I was graduating. So during my finals week in college of my last semester of college, I actually flew to Florida to get to do an interview for this keeper trainee position. When they found out that I flew in for just a day, it was like 4 hours total. They were pretty impressed, and I was offered a position with the primate team there. So I had always wanted to work with primates. That was my goal. I love Jane Goodall, so I did. I worked with primates for 6 months and found out I did not want to work with primates after that. So definitely still loved animals, wanted to find out what else was my passion. So then I got a temporary position at the Pocahontas and Her Forest Friend show and got to work with small North American mammals. So raccoons, opossums, skunks, a variety of different animals. Did a lot of training and a lot of public speaking with that role too. And then unfortunately that show closed. So I moved to a night shift, which didn't sound too exciting to me because I don't do well overnight. I get very sleepy, but I made it work because that was what was an opportunity for me. And I got to experience a whole lot of things that I wasn't expecting. I got to help hold a 4-day-old baby okapi that was had tubes and was in the hospital. I got to help different construction crews get into different areas. So I got to work with a wide variety of animals I had not previously got to work with. But eventually the night shift caught up with me. I wanted to move back to a day shift. And then I started working on our East Savannah team, working with rhinos and lions and cheetahs and hoofstock. So a wide variety there too. And I loved it. I love the rhinos, but I always wanted to get back to teaching people to be able to share my passion for the animals I got to work with with other people. So I started looking outside of Disney, and I found actually mission statement for Denver Zoo. I knew I wanted to move closer to mountains, and it was the mission statement, which is a little bit different than it is now, that really inspired me to start pursuing a job here, and specifically with the animal ambassador team. So our team goes out with our animals and does shows and programs and share, educate people about them. So I have now been at Denver Zoo with the animal ambassador team for 8 years. So Kelsey's story is a little bit different. Kelsey grew up right here in Colorado in Lakewood, and she grew up going here to Denver Zoo. So spending a lot of time and seeing people on stage and seeing how much she wanted to work with these animals here at Denver Zoo. So we went to the University of Wyoming to get her bachelor's in zoology. And while she was there, she volunteered at the Wild Animal Sanctuary and then got internships here at Denver Zoo. So she then came back to Denver Zoo, worked with our bears, and then she came over to our side of the world with ambassadors. So she was an intern, and then a seasonal, and then a temporary keeper, and then finally got a full-time job. So she worked hard, and now we get to keep her. She had a more localized route, but we both absolutely love what we do. We have a passion for our animal ambassadors. So for most zoos, our animals are split up into areas. So you work in a department. So here at Denver Zoo, it's usually the types of animals. So our ambassador animals go out and do these shows and programs and demonstrations. So we're a little bit more hands-on with our animals. Whereas like our pachyderms, which are elephants and rhinos, they go out onto an exhibit. They're not as hands-on. They kind of go out and don't do as many demonstrations. And then we have a bird department, a carnivore department. Other zoos sometimes break up areas into locations within the zoo, so you can actually work with a variety of different animals. But I think we get the best of all the worlds because we do work with a variety of animals. We have 120 animals on our team, 80 different species, everything from a 6-gram toad all the way up to 400-pound llamas. So we get a wide variety. And Kelsey's actually going to get one of our ambassador animals to show you guys. So this is Rio. She is a Southern Tamandua. You'll meet her in just a second. And she is a veteran. She's actually been on the team longer than I have. So Rio is a Southern Tamandua. These guys come from South America. And Rio is 16 years old, which is actually pretty old for a Southern Tamandua. But this is part of her job. So she doesn't have an exhibit that she goes out onto for people to see her. She actually gets to come hang out with us and do a little bit of training. So when we are looking at how to best take care of our animals, this is the same across the board for ambassador animals, bird keepers, elephant keepers. We start with natural history. So we start with knowing as much about this animal and its natural habitat as possible. So Rio is a rainforest dwelling nocturnal animal. So from there, we know how to take care of her in basic needs. So she's going to need a hot, humid place because she comes from the rainforest. And she's nocturnal, so we're gonna make sure that she's got stuff to keep her active at night. And she's also arboreal, which is a fancy term for she lives in the trees. So we make sure that her house or her home has lots of stuff she can climb on, lots of places that she can sleep up nice and high. She has a hammock that is her favorite place to be. And then we've got a special humidifier in her room because, as you know, Colorado is not that humid of a place. So we have to supplement her with some humidity to keep her skin from not drying out. So she has those natural things that we need to take care of. But when we are taking care of our animals, we don't want to take care of them just physically. We want to take care of them mentally too. So one very important thing for zookeepers to learn is training and enrichment. So enrichment is just a fancy term for toys. So she has toys that she plays with. One of her very favorite things to do is to rip things apart. She's got very sharp claws. In the wild, she would rip apart termite mounds to get all of those bugs. Right now, Kelsey's just feeding her mealworms, which is her absolute favorite treat. But she's got all of these toys that she can play with and rip apart. And then her training is something that's also very important to us. So all of the training that we do here at Denver Zoo is with positive reinforcement, which means she gets a treat or reward for doing what we ask. So every time we ask her for something, every time Kelsey says, gives her a cue, she's going to give her a mealworm or two in return, so she knows she's doing a really good job. So this is super helpful for us to do these demonstrations, but it also helps Rio participate in her own healthcare. So we can use training to teach her how to do certain things that will help us take care of her better. So Rio is 16 years old and part of a species survival plan. So she is specially chosen to breed and make more baby tamandulas. So we're lucky to say that Rio has actually given birth to 2 babies. And during her pregnancies, we wanted to make sure that she was nice and healthy. So we actually taught her to voluntarily stand and let her do an ultrasound on her belly. So we'll get her to stand like this. She eats out of the tube, and then Kelsey can rub her belly. If she had an ultrasound stick, she could actually go ahead and look at her tummy, so we can track her pregnancies to make sure she was nice and healthy. We actually have a video of her getting one of those ultrasounds. So we'll see, looks like we've got it there. So you'll see Rio and one of her best friends, Katie, helping her with her ultrasound at the hospital. And she gets a little bit of gel on there for the ultrasound, just has to stand up. Anytime we can do a procedure like this without having to anesthetize an animal is always ideal. So Rio is actually participating. She's enjoying herself because she's getting lots of treats. And it helps us take care of her better, make sure she's nice and healthy during her pregnancies. So she did have 2 successful pregnancies. Her very first pregnancy, she didn't quite know what she was doing. So instead of letting her baby hang on to her all the time, she let go of her once or twice. So the keepers actually made sure that we taught Rio how to take care of her baby, that her baby was going to have to hold on to her back a lot. But she also had to be supplemented bottle fed. So keepers had to come in at all hours of the night to give her bottle feedings. But then Rio got the gist of it. So there's her getting her first baby, Cayenne, getting a bottle. Their tongue has to kind of stick out of the way so that the tip of the bottle can get in there. So there's the babies. And then once they got the hang of it, the baby knew to hang on to mom's back. So even when she got really, really big, she still hung on to Rio's back. But she did so well after having Cayenne. She then gave birth to another baby named Salvador, who lives in Cincinnati. Cayenne's in Washington, D.C. now. She did absolutely great with Sal. So this was a super helpful behavior for her, and we were actually able to translate it to a lot of different things. So it's a really cool behavior to show off in demonstrations. It also helped her with different radiographs that we were able to take of her too, so we don't have to ever anesthetize her. I think we're able to do a lot of different things, and as you can see, she's a very willing participant. But as we're talking about different veterinary procedures, I'm going to actually roll it over to Rachel, who's going to tell you all about that side of the world, the veterinary side and the healthcare side of working at Denver Zoo.
All right, thanks everybody for being here and joining our Furthering Careers program. And big thank you to Stephanie and Kelsey and Rio for starting us out. So my name is Rachel. I am the lead guest engagement facilitator here at Denver Zoo, which is kind of a big fancy title and means that I get to do a little bit of a lot of different things here at the zoo. But my primary job is to support programming at our brand new animal hospital, the Helen and Arthur E. Johnson Animal Hospital. Our hospital was finished and open to our vet staff just about 1.5 years ago. And it is one of the most state-of-the-art animal hospitals at any zoo in the world. We're actually one of 9 zoos in the world with our own CT scanner on site. So we're able to do a lot of diagnostic medicine and research medicine that we weren't able to do before. And we're also one of about 6 zoos in the country that is open for viewing in our animal hospital. So if you're at Denver Zoo and you're a guest and you're just walking around the park, you can walk into the viewing gallery above the hospital's treatment rooms and you can see whatever's going on that day. So this morning, our vet team did an exam for Basil, the gray-crowned African crane, but we do all sorts of stuff. We've had venomous snakes and porcupines and penguins and all kinds of little friends that have come to visit us at the animal hospital. The only patients in the zoo that do not actually get to be treated in the hospital are our elephants, rhinos, giraffes, hippos, and Cape buffaloes. They are just a little bit too big and heavy. So when they need something from our vet team, our doctors and our veterinary technicians will go out into the zoo and work with those animals at home in the park where they live. So it does take kind of a village to keep an entire zoo feeling good. Here at Denver Zoo, we have 4 full-time veterinarians and 6 full-time certified veterinary technicians. So in the human world, we would refer to them as doctors and nurses. Here at the zoo, and in most animal medicine, they are referred to as veterinarians and veterinary technicians. So our technicians are like our nurses. They help with procedures. They help doctors get everything set up. They administer medications. They do a lot of the actual hands-on patient care. They do all of our laboratory tests on urine and blood and feces to make sure everything is working on the inside. So it's a lot to do and it's a lot to know. We do actually have a short video from our vet staff talking about their career paths and how they knew they wanted to get into veterinary medicine, and what you can do to follow in that same footstep. So here we go.
I'm Dr. Laura Croft. I'm an associate veterinarian here at Denver Zoo.
Hi, my name is Jessie, and I am a certified veterinary technician here at Denver Zoo.
I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was really young. I was probably around 8 or so when I got my first pet, which was a cockatiel. The cockatiel got sick, and I was reading the cockatiel handbook and trying to nurse our cockatiel back to health. And we ended up going to see a veterinarian, but I was just fascinated at that point by animals and their medicine. And then when I was in 10th grade, I had a biology teacher that was talking about different careers. And at that point, I was between being a marine biologist or a veterinarian. And then he mentioned a marine veterinarian, and I thought, wow, I keep combining my 2 loves. And from that point, I was sold, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So my grandpa was a vet, and every day when I was in elementary school, I would call him and find out what he had worked on, and I just loved it. Then as I got older, I was really unsure of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work at a zoo. So I went to Oregon State University and got a bachelor's degree in fisheries and wildlife sciences, and then graduated with that and didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it. And I just happened to get a receptionist front desk job at a vet clinic, and then I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is something I could apply to zoo animals or wildlife medicine, and then started volunteering at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. And so I did that for 3 years while I was going through vet tech school, and then was able to start working at a zoo.
So I like to say veterinary medicine is a little bit like putting together a puzzle. So we take things that we learn from the blood, and we take things that we learn from the x-rays or the CT, and we kind of put that all together to form our diagnosis and our treatment plan. I like that I can add to the knowledge base about some of these animals, their husbandry, their biology, their medicine. So that's really exciting to sort of be on the cutting edge of things and learning something new every day.
So one of my favorite things about being a CVT is that every day is super different here at the zoo. Most stuff in veterinary medicine is designed for cats and dogs. So it's a lot of being really creative and figuring out how you can make a face mask that's designed for a dog's face work for a flamingo or a snake or something like that. I think if you want to go into a veterinary medicine career, you should start early, try to get as much experience as you can, working with, especially if you want to get into zoo medicine, get experience with things outside of cats and dogs. So if there's a exotics clinic you can volunteer at, or as a lot of zoos have volunteer programs, that's what I did to kind of get my foot in the door. Having such a solid background in stuff outside of cats and dogs is really a boost to your resume when you're applying to a permanent vet tech position.
My advice to any girls considering a veterinary medicine career would be just know it's a lot of school. So be prepared for that and embrace it. Embrace all the amazing things that you learn through that journey. And I guess it's not for the squeamish. If you don't like blood or poop, maybe look for a different career.
All right, so great to see our vet team there. They are very busy, or they would have been here themselves, but we were fortunate to have them want to participate. They were able to do an interview with me, and that was, as you saw in the video, Dr. Laura Croft and our certified tech, Jessie, both of them in the new animal hospital, standing in front of our amazing CT scanner. So that is essentially a giant X-ray machine, but instead of just looking at bones, it allows us to see everything inside an animal's body. We can take a look at their nerves, their brain, their spinal cord, their heart, their lungs, their digestive system, just everything on the inside. So we can really get a better idea of what's going on without having to actually open them up and take a look ourselves. So the fact that we do have this technology in our animal hospital just really speaks to the level of care that we aim to provide here at Denver Zoo, not just for our own animals, but by doing these types of scans for animals that maybe are not very well researched and we don't know a whole lot about them, we can further the knowledge of all sorts of animals that call Denver Zoo home, and even animals that live at other zoos. We can send our scans to those other facilities and help them take better care of their own animals. So it's really exciting to be part of a team that is on the cutting edge of animal welfare here at Denver Zoo. So our veterinary staff, you saw there, Dr. Croft and Jessie, but they're just a small part of the team. We do have 4 full-time veterinarians and 6 full-time certified veterinary technicians, and they keep everybody running. All of our vet staff do work with all of the animals here at the zoo, so it's a lot to know. They have to be comfortable taking care of anything from a fish to a snake to a bird, all the way up to Groucho the Asian elephant or Tundra the grizzly bear. So it's a lot to know and it's a lot to do. And as Jessie said, it's something new and different every day here at the zoo. So it's always new and exciting challenges for our vet team. So my role in the vet team is a little bit on the other side of the glass. As I mentioned before, our Helen and Arthur E. Johnson Animal Hospital is actually open for public viewing. You can walk right in and see what's happening on any given day. And I'm sort of the person who stands in the guest gallery and talks about what our team does. So this morning when we were doing our exam for Basil, the gray-crowned African crane, I was standing there talking about how old he is and where he's from and what our team is doing and why it's helpful and why it's important to place a breathing tube for his procedure and just all the little things that happen during a vet procedure, just explaining them and giving the correct context. So there is another short video of some past facilitation from Quill, the North American porcupine, who had an exam in the hospital this past summer to check out his skull and his head and his sinuses. So just showing you a little taste of what my role is here at Denver Zoo. So Quill, the North American porcupine. Quill is a rodent. He is a very large rodent. So just doing a really good exam today, still just kind of waiting for him to fall asleep. So we'll actually open up his mouth and pass a little tube into his throat, down into his windpipe, his trachea. What other animals do we take care of in the hospital? We can take care of almost anybody. On Friday, we did a little beak repair for a penguin. In just a second, he'll slide down towards the bottom of the screen as they start to take their CT scan. So it's really amazing that we can do this scan for Quill. It's going to give us a lot of information about exactly what's going on inside of his head. So again, just a little taste there of the informal education aspect of things. Our vet team's a little too busy during a procedure to be able to talk the whole time themselves. So they pass that off to someone like me. I do work in the education department. So in addition to hospital programming, my department helps out with giraffe feedings and animal demonstrations and talks around the zoo. So you've seen Kelsey and Stephanie do some amazing behaviors training with Rio, like that little ultrasound stand that she did. We do things like that with all the animals here at the zoo. Our tigers and lions will open their mouths and show us their teeth so we can make sure they have nice, healthy smiles. Our elephants will give us their feet so we can trim up their toes. Just lots of little things that make it easier for our vet team to take care of our animals. And then it's on our department to communicate that and show that all of our animals do have free choice here at the zoo. It's all voluntary participation. And we're really just doing everything with their best interest at heart, helping them to help us take better care of them. So to become an informal educator at Denver Zoo, I actually don't have any formal education training. My path was a little bit rocky. I started out here in Denver. I was born and raised here and was a Girl Scout myself for about 7 years. So I actually remember my Girl Scout troop adopted one of Denver Zoo's clouded leopards when I was in 2nd grade. So we came to the zoo to see our leopard, and that was one of my very first memories of Denver Zoo. And I always loved animals and loved being here. And as I got older, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with animals. So I went to Colorado State University for biology. And while I was there, I was very fortunate to be able to study abroad in South Africa. And I spent some time working on game reserves in South Africa, working with endangered species out in the field every day. And I just absolutely fell in love with these animals that really don't have a voice to speak for themselves. And I fell in love with the conservation side of things. When I came home from studying abroad and I was finishing my degree, I was volunteering at a wolf sanctuary just north of Fort Collins. And after I finished my degree, I wound up working at a horse hospital. I was a vet tech working overnights in the intensive care and emergency unit. So I got to be hands-on with the animals all night, every night. Got to see some really crazy things, everything from babies being born to giant stallions needing emergency surgery, and kind of everything in between. And it was a lot of fun, but it's also pretty challenging work, hauling horses all over the place and bales of hay and being up all hours of the night. So I finally decided I was ready for something a little bit easier after about 3 years. And I was very fortunate to find this amazing opportunity at Denver Zoo. They were looking for someone to support the new animal hospital. And I knew that with my diverse experience in sanctuaries and out in the field and in animal hospitals, I could bring a lot to that role. So even if you don't know where you're going right away, trying a little bit of a lot of things helps you to kind of narrow it down, and also helps you build a really great resume that will give you a leg up when you're looking for something like a zoo job here. So we do have one more animal to meet. This is another friend that is on our ambassador team, and this is an animal that actually very recently had an exam in the animal hospital. So we're going to pass things back over to Stephanie so that she can talk to you a little bit about Toro and Toro's recent vet care.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so this is Toro, and Toro is a bull snake. So this is a type of snake you can find right here in Colorado. And when we first got Toro, he was only 118 grams, which is the size of a very tiny apple. So he was about the size of his tail and was only about a foot long. So very tiny. But like I said before, the first thing as a zookeeper we need to know is the natural history of an animal. So for bull snakes out in the wild, they tend to be very fierce animals. So they try to look and act as much like a rattlesnake as possible. So you can see his coloration is a lot like a rattlesnake. He even has a special bone in his throat that makes his hiss sound extra loud. So it actually took us a very long time to get Toro very comfortable with us to become an ambassador snake that can be handled every day. But it's really great that we did, because it was able to handling him that we were able to see that little scale on his tail that looked just a little bit different. So we've got a few pictures of how that scale looked when we first found it. As you can see, it looks just a little dry and a little weird. So as a zookeeper, we are kind of trained to find things that look different. So it looked very different to us. We all said, that's weird. And then we said, this is where your expertise comes in. So we sent pictures to the vets. They came down and looked at it, and they were pretty concerned with it. So they actually did a biopsy. So they cut a piece of his skin off around that area and then sent it off to be looked at under a microscope so that we could figure out what exactly was going on with the scale. Luckily, it wasn't anything too severe, and it was just a form of dermatitis. So now Toro gets to be handled twice a day, so he gets a little bit of ointment put onto his scale every single day. So it's a good thing that we did a lot of training with him. When he first came in, like I said, he was very feisty, which was to be expected for a bull snake. So we basically got him out every single day. And every time he got a little upset, he would either hiss or he'd shake his tail. We said, that's fine. You're communicating with us and you get to go home. So little by little, the more he stayed out, the longer he was comfortable. So we could keep him out for longer and longer until he finally realized, well, this actually isn't so bad. I can hang out with you guys. So luckily, we were able to handle him as much as we are. We're able to spot that little spot on his scale. And now he's pretty much in recovery. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on this pegboard so he can get some exercise. This is another form of enrichment for our animals. So it's not just toys, it's little exercise playgrounds for them too. So as we're wrapping up, I'd like to encourage you guys to go on to denverzoo.org. If you have any questions about career paths, there's different information on there. But we also have a full section on scout programs that we offer here at Denver Zoo. So go to denverzoo.org, check that out. But now we've done a lot of talking. Do you guys have questions for us? Any career questions or animal questions? And it doesn't even have to be the 3 careers that you heard about. It can be other things. We'll try to figure stuff out for you guys. Toro's going to hang out with us.
Yeah, we did have, you can raise your Zoom hand if you want, girls, if you have questions, but we did have one in the chat about what's your personal favorite thing about working at the zoo. You can pick one.
There's so many. So for me, it's training. I love training our animals and seeing successes. So it's not even training a full behavior, but it's seeing those small incremental changes in our training process as we're training. So right now I'm working with a free-flighted red-tailed hawk and training him to fly around the plaza that's right in front of our new hospital. So it starts off in very small flights, but eventually it gets bigger and bigger, and watching him learn how to fly it's just been amazing. So helping our animals succeed. I don't know, do you have one?
Mine's probably just creating the connections between guests and our animals. So the connections we get to create between Toro and our guests, or the other animals that I get to work with every day, seeing those connections be built is probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Cora, you've got a question?
Yes, I was wondering with the CAT scans if you could somehow tell if you were looking at a bone or a muscle on the x-ray. Is it like,
Did you hear that?
Coordinated?
Yeah, that is a great question. So with our CT scans, it captures everything. So we can just start out and say, we want pictures of all of it. And it will take pictures of like the skull and the brain and the nerves coming out of the brain, and even the skin and the hair on top of the skin as well. And then from there, we actually have a special computer that kind of puts all of it together, and our doctors can go into that computer program and say, hey, I'm really specifically interested in just the skeleton, or maybe just the brain or the eyes. And they can actually kind of select things by tissue type. So our vet team would be able to look at a CT scan and say, oh, this part is bone because it's really bright white. Just like on an x-ray, the bone shows up really nice and white, and the softer tissue like organs and skin, that's a little bit darker gray, which means that it can be harder to see. So we do have a team of radiologists and even human radiologists who look at people x-rays all day. And we will send them our CT scans after every exam and just have them take a look and make sure that we're not missing anything. But if there is something specific that we're looking for, we can actually go back to our CT scan and say, I'd really like to see the bones, and isolate just that body system. A really great example of this would be for one of our African lionesses. Her name is Sabi, and she's just got some kind of wonky bones. Her legs aren't quite the same length, and her spine is a little bit crooked. And we need to keep a really close eye on that to make sure that she is staying comfortable as she gets older. So she gets a CT scan in our animal hospital every single year. And then our vet team can go in and take just the skeleton from that exam and compare it to her past years to make sure that we are monitoring those changes and keeping her comfortable as she's getting a little older. So that was a long answer, but that's a very good question.
Yeah, no, that was a very fascinating answer. Does anybody else have a question about, college or the career paths or, any other jobs that might be at the zoo, that you might, just the business side, the marketing side, the organizing groups? There's a whole bunch of different kinds of jobs, but anybody else have any questions? No? All right. Well, I would like to highlight our special guest that we have joining us tonight. Oh, do you have a question?
Yeah, do you have vet techs in the Denver Zoo?
Yeah, that is a great question. So we actually have 6 veterinary technicians that work here. They are all certified veterinary technicians, which means that they went to school for it. So in our video that we showed earlier with Jessie, our vet tech, she talked a little bit about her path. Some places do not require their vet techs to be certified. You don't have to go to school for it. You don't have to take an exam for it. And that's actually what I did when I was a vet tech. I'm not a certified technician, but a lot of places like really nice zoos, really nice small animal hospitals as well, they prefer to have certified techs. So we have 6 certified techs that work here at Denver Zoo, which means that they went to school for 2 years to learn how to be a vet tech, to learn how to safely administer anesthesia and assist with surgery and things like that. So that's a really important part of running an animal hospital. Our doctors can't do everything themselves, so it's really good for them to have some really reliable hands around to help out with procedures. Good question.
Thank you.
Oh, do you have a question, Mia?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you do experiments on animals, or is it just like?
That is also a really good question. The short answer is no, not really. We do have a couple family groups here at the zoo that we're kind of watching them to see how they interact together. One example would be our orangutan family. Our dad, Barani, had his mate Nias, and they have a baby Chera together. And unfortunately, Nias passed away very suddenly when Chera was still a baby. And orangutans usually really need their moms as infants. And Barani, the dad, all of a sudden started taking over parenting, and he's raising Chera himself, and he lets her climb all over him, and he makes sure she's fed and comfortable. And that's actually the very first time that anyone anywhere has seen an orangutan dad be the primary parent for an infant. So we are doing studies on our orangutan family to kind of see how that relationship develops as Chera continues to grow. But it's not like we're doing experiments on them. We're just letting them live their natural lives, exhibit all their natural behaviors here at the zoo. And we're just watching to kind of see how that develops and make sure that everything continues to go really well for this new and interesting family dynamic that we're seeing. So we don't do any sort of like medical experiments. We don't do any sort of crazy outlandish things, but anytime we see something new and interesting, we keep a really close eye on it so that we can learn from it as much as possible.
Oh,
A good question.
I have a question too.
Okay.
Do you guys have like it's like it's a gecko, and it has like dots on its tail. Do you guys have those?
A gecko? It's like a gecko?
Yeah.
A tiger salamander, they have spots on their tails.
We have a New Caledonian gecko. So we do have, and I think in our tropical discovery, we have some geckos as well. So they have a big variety of animals, of different types of reptiles. So
Lisa, do you have a question?
I was asking, I have heard that some people make the habitats for the animals.
Oh yeah, Lisa had asked about artists creating habitats for the animals.
Yeah, we have a whole team of people that work on just designing the habitats. So it takes several people to do that. But yeah, we have architects that specifically create the exhibits and habitats and homes for our animals, because we do want it to be as naturalistic as possible, while being safe as possible for our animals too. So yeah, that's a whole field too you can pursue with the zoo career.
Amazing. All right, and Cora, I'll take your question too, about internships. Is that the question you had your hand raised for too? Yeah. So do you have any student internships programs where girls can come in, or kids, I shouldn't say just girls, but.
So yeah, so we have a couple of different options. We do have a teen volunteer program that has taken a hiatus with COVID for right now. So it should come back eventually. So you can start volunteering and eventually work in animal areas as a keeper assistant. So that's kind of like your first step into that world of kind of almost internships. And then once you're in school, then you can apply for our internships in animal care. So we do, I was like, Kelsey is actually our intern manager for our team. So she works with our interns a lot. So we usually have a couple for our team as well. But yeah, there's internships throughout different animal care areas. So internships, and then the teen program too is another thing to look into. So that would be something to keep an eye on, Denver Zoo program.
And by teen, do you mean 13 and above, or
12?
Even older?
So to be a volunteer, I think 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's 12 or 13 for the teen volunteer program. I'm not exactly sure on when exactly. I think it's a grade level.
Okay.
And then you have to be 18 to apply for internships.
Does that answer your question, Cora? Thumbs up. Awesome. All right. Well, I would love to highlight Angela Bayer for us. And so Angela is the CEO of College Invest. And I'm going to spotlight Angela so she can say hello.
Hey there, I'm going to be a lot more boring. That was such a great presentation. Absolutely love it. We were talking about careers in zoos, and I'm CEO for College Invest now, but I used to be CEO of the New York State Zoo and was actually the first woman in a senior leadership role at the Denver Zoo as their first female vice president. So if you're passionate about animals, but you're not sure that you want to go into a science-based career, you can do it on the business side too, as well as we're talking about horticulture and maintenance. So when I was the CEO of a zoo, I actually got to live in a zoo with my kids, and my husband was the veterinarian. So even though I have a business and marketing advertising background, I've had the wonderful opportunity of sleeping with monkeys and gorillas and feeding baby polar bears and all kinds of wonderful experiences. So if you can dream it, you really can be it. And it doesn't have to be just in those few specific categories that you would think about. You can even be an accountant and work at a zoo.
Yeah. And how exciting would it be?
Yeah, absolutely.
To be an accountant and working at a zoo.
Yeah, exactly right.
Every day to see the animals. So awesome. Well, girls, I'm going to share my screen once more because I want to show you actually two more things to be specific about. So I want to pass along, let me get the next slide. There is a new thing that it launched on Monday. It's called the Future Me contest. And you can do a video or you can write a little essay about how you see your future self and submit it to Girl Scouts of Colorado. There's going to be randomly chosen an older Girl Scout and randomly chosen a younger Girl Scout as the winners. And those two winners will have $529. So $529 put into a College Invest savings plan. So it's a pretty good deal. You can kind of think of it as a $529 scholarship to your future college or any program that you'd like to do after high school. So that's exciting. And it's been in social media and emails that your caregivers will see. So you can have access to it that way. And also want to let you know, this is a picture of our Inspiring Futures patch. And so if this is the first one you're seeing, you'll get that middle patch, and then we'll call them rockers, the badges that go out on the outside. This one for the zoo will be an outdoors one, so you can earn that. And in other inspiring features we have down the road, tomorrow we've got the auto racing team. That will be a STEM patch, and we've got some entrepreneurs and life skills and things, so you can earn the rockers that go around the badge at different inspiring futures. And last up, I just wanted to definitely thank the zoo, thank Girl Scouts of Colorado, and thank College Invest so much for sponsoring this program. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can all say a good thank you and goodbye to the zoo. And, if Girl Scouts, if you have any last questions, we'd love to hear them now. Corbell, I love your heart. Any last questions for the zoo, girls? Corbell, do you have one?
Well, I have not gone to the Denver Zoo in a long time, but last time there was a cat place being constructed, some cat building. Is that done yet? That's done. Is that done?
Yeah, I think you're talking about our tiger yard, and yes, it is fully constructed now. So we've got 2 tigers living in there. It is kind of back in a corner by our tropical discovery building.
Ooh, you'll have to get there soon so you can come see it, Corbell. Awesome. All right, well, hopefully you've all been inspired, and maybe in, I don't know what, 10 years, 15 years, we'll see you guys working at the Denver Zoo in some aspect. What do you think? Would that be exciting?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and maybe we'll see you on another inspiring future.